Studious Antoinette Steven secretly yearned for romance.
What she was really looking for was to feel loved.
When she met Harvard PhD candidate Kashif Parvez, her search was over.
She was pulled in by his charm and good looks.
But Kashif had a secret of his own.
He's living this double life.
Their mysterious romance ignited fireworks.
He's very handsome, looks physically fit.
But their passionate affair would be cut short when gunfire shatters the peace in a quiet community.
All of a sudden, these three men just jumped out from nowhere.
Plunging police into a desperate fight to solve a hate crime.
These people just screamed, "Kill the terrorists."
More hateful than anyone could imagine.
They just couldn't understand who would do something like this.
Witness firsthand how investigators unraveled a tangled web of scandal and lies.
The story just didn't feel right.
To expose a hidden evil that shocked a community and tore a family apart.
The things that we find completely reprehensible and disgusting, well, for them, it fits into their scheme.
August 16th, 2011, 11:15 p.m. Like any other night in Boonton, New Jersey, the streets were deserted.
It's a totally quiet place. People are going to sleep or watch 11 o'clock news.
But at the local emergency dispatch center, a barrage of calls sent operators scrambling. Every caller frantically described the same thing.
They received reports of 6 to 8 gunshots.
Officers rushed to the residential street where callers reported hearing the gunshots and came across a shocking scene.
There was a man lying there, and he had been shot more than once, and he looked like he was in really bad shape.
Despite multiple gunshot wounds, the man was somehow still alive. When he weakly pointed to a spot a few yards away, officers saw that he wasn't the only casualty.
Police saw a stroller and a woman collapse behind it, and they feared the worst.
Inside the stroller was a little boy, who investigators were relieved to find miraculously unharmed.
There was no other wounds or injuries to the child.
But the woman lying in the street next to the stroller hadn't been so lucky.
She was struck 3 times in the chest area.
She was shot dead.
While paramedics swarmed around the man, he identified himself as 26-year-old Kashif Parvez. The woman was his wife, 27-year-old Nazish, and the boy, their 3-year-old son. Kashif told police that he and his family were from Brooklyn and were in Boonton visiting his in-laws. They were out taking an evening stroll together when the unthinkable happened. They'd been ambushed.
3 masked men came out of nowhere and started shooting them.
Investigators were stunned.
Who would attack this young couple with their child in a stroller?
Police had no way of knowing that the search for an answer to that question would soon lead them to a sordid web of deceit, hate, revenge, and unbridled passion turned deadly. Born in 1984 in India, Antoinette Steven moved to Massachusetts with her family when she was a toddler. From their first days in the U.S., Antoinette's mother and father had high expectations for their daughter.
Antoinette's parents were hard workers. They really wanted to be successful in America, and they wanted the same for their children.
With her mother and father's constant encouragement and their strict supervision, their bright young girl became an excellent student. By high school, the college-bound high achiever knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life.
Antoinette was quite driven, and she decided she wanted to be an architect, and her parents were thrilled with that choice.
But her parents weren't wealthy enough to pay Antoinette's way for a master's degree in architecture. By 2010, the now 25-year-old Antoinette was living at home and working 2 jobs in order to afford a full schedule of classes. But the pressure to achieve at school and pay her way through to graduation left little time for anything else.
Antoinette didn't have a lot of friends. her family was the core of her social life.
Despite having grown into an attractive young woman, Antoinette was still shy and introverted. School and work had left little time for dating.
She really wanted to know what it's like to have a boyfriend, to know what that meant and to know what that felt like.
Then in January of 2010, a handsome young man introduced himself as a fellow architecture student named Kashif Parvez. Right away, Antoinette felt a powerful attraction to the 24-year-old.
She was pulled in by his charm and apparent good looks.
The two quickly discovered that they had a lot in common.
They had both grown up with strict immigrant parents. He was Muslim and she was Christian, but outside of that, they shared a lot of experiences.
Both came from families that held high expectations for them.
He had a lot of pressure on himself growing up to be a certain way.
And like Antoinette, Kashif was a budding architect. The two grew closer and closer each day.
They started out being friends.
In 2010, after just a few months of knowing each other, Kashif and Antoinette went from confidants to lovers.
Her loneliness had finally been broken by Kashif, and she was so happy, she wanted to shout it to the world.
Antoinette did everything in her power to show Kashif just how much she cared.
She was really devoted to him.
Antoinette was just taken by him.
And Kashif was only too happy to accept her affection and even the gifts Antoinette bought him.
Miss Stevens was in love with him and would do anything for him.
Antoinette had never had a boyfriend before. Keeping Kashif happy became her obsession. Meeting him had been like an answered prayer, except for one thing. Kashif Parvez was married.
He had a wife and 2 children.
Born in the U.S. and raised in a family steeped in his parents' native Pakistani culture, Kashif Parvez's childhood straddled 2 worlds.
To have as your career.
Kashif's parents chose architecture for his career. But when it came to romance, Kashif remained very independently minded. So much so that he made it clear to his parents that there was one old world Pakistani custom he would absolutely not be following: arranged marriage.
He felt he needed to take a different direction.
But his parents needn't have worried. The woman he fell in love with was not only beautiful, but also a devout Muslim and Pakistani American just like them. Kashif and Nazish married in 2005, when he was 20 and she was 21. The newlyweds didn't waste any time starting a family.
Fairly soon into their marriage, she became pregnant, so she had her first son. And then a few years later, she had her second son.
Every morning, stay-at-home mom Nazish would watch her husband leave home with his laptop and armload of textbooks. At night, when he returned, Kashif would talk about his day, spent at the highly competitive Columbia University Architecture Master's Program. And then one evening, 24-year-old Kashif returned home from his classes with big news.
He told his wife that he was going to get his PhD at Harvard.
For their entire marriage, Kashif had balanced school with work at a small contracting business. Alone at home, Nazish grew to rely on her family in Boonton, New Jersey, and her in-laws in Brooklyn. Kashif decided to temporarily move to Boston by himself. Once he had his degree, they would figure out whether to move to Boston or keep the family in Brooklyn.
He understood it wouldn't be a very easy time for them, but that it was the best thing to do for his family.
But once he moved to Boston, the absence of his family began to gnaw at Kashif. Weekend trips home only made him feel dislocated. That all changed when a few months after arriving in Boston, Kashif met a shy and pretty young Indian immigrant named Antoinette Stephen. For Kashif, having someone he could talk to helped ease the pain of missing his family. But as Kashif and Antoinette's connection deepened, Kashif began to feel more emotionally removed from his absent wife and family. Weekends home with Nazish became less frequent, and when he did make the trip back to Brooklyn, all he and his wife did was fight.
It was not a happy marriage.
The frustrations Kashif felt with Nazish would be soothed when he returned to Boston, and Antoinette. But as Antoinette and Kashif's passion grew, so did Kashif's doubt. What did he and Antoinette have to look forward to in the years ahead? Divorce from Nazish and a marriage of their own? As a Muslim, leaving his wife would be a very difficult task.
Divorce is frowned upon, so I think he was worried about the repercussions to that.
And the prospect of bringing a woman who was both Indian and Christian home to meet his parents was almost more unthinkable.
It's certainly not something the Muslim religion would condone in the least bit.
In the meantime, Kashif and Antoinette spent long, blissful nights together. For Antoinette, Kashif was the center of her existence. Meanwhile, Nazish was back in Brooklyn, raising 2 sons by herself, entirely unaware that her husband was having an affair. Then, in the summer of 2011, after nearly 2 years of living apart, Nazish surprised Kashif with an unexpected demand. She told Kashif that there was only one way to save their troubled marriage. She and the boys, now 5 and 3, would now be with him.
She had been making arrangements to try to move to Boston. She was hopeful. She was hoping to go out there so they could be a family again.
With his wife and children set to arrive, Antoinette and Kashif had to face facts.
With all the obstacles that they faced, there was no way they were going to be able to get married and have a life together.
Antoinette was devastated. As she struggled to pick up the pieces of her life, Kashif prepared to welcome his wife and children back into his life. But their family reunion would be short-lived. Tragedy lay just ahead. Coming up, the search for a motive unearths violent bigotry.
They screamed, "Kill the terrorists."
This is a hate crime.
For 2 years, married 26-year-old Kashif Parvez and 26-year-old Antoinette Stephen carried on a passionate affair in Boston. But with Kashif's family about to move to Boston from their Brooklyn home to be with him, the guilt-ridden husband and father broke off his secret romance.
He had hoped to try as much as possible to work it out.
He did not want to lose the kids.
Though unaware of the affair, Kashif's wife Nazish had known that their marriage was in trouble.
She kind of said, "We need to be together as a family. We're moving in."
The months of work Nazish and Kashif had put into staying together seemed to be paying off. They looked forward to traveling as a family to celebrate the Ramadan holiday in her parents' hometown of Boonton, New Jersey. But on the night of August 16, 2011, police in Boonton responded to a flurry of 911 calls.
The neighbors were reporting several gunshots.
And when they arrived on the scene, first responders found Kashif gunned down in the street and fighting for his life. His wife Nazish lay nearby, next to their 3-year-old son.
The wife had been shot directly through the heart.
Nazish was dead, but the couple's 3-year-old son was unharmed. In fact, his mother's lifeless body had prevented his stroller from rolling downhill to an almost certain death.
Even though she was murdered, she somehow was able to save her son's life.
As paramedics triaged Kashif's gunshot wounds and prepared to transport him, police questioned the still conscious survivor about the attack.
Kashif was in quite a bit of shock, but he was still able to talk to the authorities.
Kashif explained that his family was in Boonton, celebrating the end of the annual Muslim holiday fast of Ramadan with his wife's parents. As the evening came to an end, they decided to take their youngest son for a walk.
He and his wife were walking after dinner from her sister's house to her father's house, which is only a 2-block walk.
But suddenly, the evening took a turn for the terrifying and tragic.
All of a sudden, these 3 men just jumped out from nowhere.
Kashif told police that before he even knew what was happening, he and his family were caught in a hail of bullets.
These three masked men had come out of the darkness and then just started shooting at them.
Detectives knew that the first few hours after a violent crime were critical to a successful investigation. They pressed Kashif for any details before he was placed in an ambulance and shepherded to the emergency room. Kashif told them that only 2 of the men had guns. Asked for a physical description, he mostly recalled the masks.
There was 2 black males and 1 white male. One of the black males being heavy set, and the white male wearing some sort of like either a t-shirt or a scarf over his face.
Anxious paramedics cut the interview short, and the ambulance raced off to the local trauma center. Now, police turned their full attention to the crime scene. Shell casings from 2 weapons appeared to confirm Kashif's story.
It was a .38 caliber type weapon and then a 9mm.
But if police hoped to find the killers, they needed witnesses. When detectives canvassed the area, it was the same story everywhere. Lots of people heard the shots, but no one saw the men who fired them.
Police had no eyewitnesses.
Then, investigators got a break from within their own ranks. A first responding officer realized he'd seen something odd while en route to the scene.
When the police were rushing to the scene, a car passed them.
It was a blue Toyota Camry with their headlights out. They thought that was suspicious.
Detectives agreed. They needed to identify the mysterious vehicle, and they knew just the place to start.
We had traffic cameras.
When investigators pulled the tape from a camera at the intersection closest to the crime scene, they hit the jackpot.
We went back and looked at our Main Street cameras and were able to identify that vehicle.
Not only did the tape yield a clear description of the vehicle, a close examination told them even more.
They were able to get the license plate off that car.
The plate was issued in Massachusetts and registered to a resident of a sleepy suburb of Boston. Before Boonton police could reach out to their Massachusetts counterparts, word arrived that Kashif was out of danger and able to be questioned further.
Police were hoping that once the initial shock had worn off, Kashif would remember more things about the attack.
As detectives took notes, Kashif again described the shocking crime that had shattered his family just hours before. Only the details had slightly changed.
It's very likely in that situation, if a person's been shot, that they could be woozy and not be getting their facts correct.
His story then changed to 3 black males.
And there was another detail he remembered since coming to the hospital. When he told police what the men had said during their attack, it shocked even seasoned homicide detectives.
The 3 black males yelled "terrorist" as they shot.
They screamed, "Kill the terrorists."
What had initially appeared to be a random violent crime wasn't random at all.
He is telling them this is a hate crime.
Coming up, were the hands on the triggers driven by hate or love?
There was obviously something going on with him and the other party.
And a shocking denial suggests that a jealous lover not only may have been involved, but may not have acted alone.
That kind of raises some red flags.
After nearly 2 years of secret meetings, straying husband Kashif Parvez had put his family first and ended his passionate affair with Antoinette Stephen. While their mutual attraction had proved irresistible, Kashif's traditional Muslim values ultimately won out.
The idea of divorce was something that he knew would be something that would bring shame on him.
But on August 16, 2011, Kashif's marriage abruptly came to an end. Just after 11 p.m. in sleepy Boonton, New Jersey, a spray of bullets ripped through Kashif and his wife Nazish as they took an evening stroll with their 3-year-old son.
Just shot 3 times in the chest.
Ballistic evidence backed up Kashif's description of a group attack, and a surveillance camera showed a possible getaway vehicle registered in suburban Boston. But what police officers didn't have was a motive.
They just couldn't understand who would do something like this.
Then the widowed dad shared troubling new details with police.
They were yelling at them that they were terrorists before they shot them.
We don't have that kind of hate crime. Since I've been on 19 years, I've never had a biased crime such as that.
But experienced investigators still wondered if the deadly attack was more personal than political.
Maybe it's not a biased crime, but there's some reason.
Police asked the devout Muslim dad if he had been the recipient of threatening calls or texts. Kashif told investigators he had no idea who would want to hurt his family.
Boonton was just a quiet suburban town out of the way, and it's made no sense at all.
But when detectives asked to examine the grieving widower's cell phone for suspicious incoming calls, Kashif's reply caught them completely by surprise. He flatly refused.
That kind of right there raises some red flags. Your wife just got murdered, you just got shot. What's the deal with your cell phone?
Puzzled investigators filed the necessary paperwork to impound and examine Kashif's phone, whether he liked it or not. Finally, Kashif told them the truth.
He came out and said, "I have a girlfriend."
The ashamed husband and father admitted to police that text messages on his phone would reveal his secret, an on-campus love affair that he carried on with a beautiful co-ed named Antoinette Stephen hadn't ended. In fact, the two lovers were still seeing each other.
He definitely did not want to get his girlfriend mixed up in it.
When Kashif shared his full feelings about his marriage with police, they were surprised at how bitter the widowed husband was about his recently murdered wife.
The wife was shot around 11 p.m. By about 2 a.m., Kashif is already bad-mouthing the wife. He claimed that she was not a good mother, very greedy. One of his recurring themes was how materialistic his wife was.
She would purchase items for the home and for herself that she and Kashif could not afford.
Did this bitterly unhappy husband have something to do with his wife's death? Investigators put it directly to him.
And the detective confronted him and said that they felt that maybe there was more to his story. Maybe it didn't happen the way he had said.
Under an increasingly relentless interrogation, Kashif began to break down. After admitting his marriage was unhappy, he intimated that he also hadn't been entirely truthful about the night of the murder.
He just started spilling out more information.
And it wasn't long before the dam burst.
He was saying this was an accident, it was never meant to happen.
As stunned detectives listened, Kashif shared the details of a conspiracy gone wrong. It all started, he said, with a conversation between the unhappy husband and a mysterious man that Kashif told police was named Nomi To. Kashif said he barely knew Nomi To and was only able to sketch out the barest details to police.
He said there was someone named Nomi To from Queens who was a friend of his.
According to Kashif, Nomi was a truck driver who struck up a conversation with him one day at a diner in Brooklyn. Needing someone to confide in, Kashif had told the stranger about his ongoing affair and the obligation to Nazish that stood between him and happiness. Nomi told him that if he and his girlfriend wanted to be free, Nazish would have to be eliminated. Permanently.
He was talking about murder. He said that she needed to be taken out of the picture.
Nomi's plan was to ambush the couple, kill Nazish, and wound Kashif to throw police off the scent. Kashif told detectives that Nomi made murder sound like the only solution.
He made arrangements with this Nomi To to kill his wife.
Shooting Kashif too would be the icing on the cake. The cops would never suspect him after that.
But when detectives pressed Kashif on his co-conspirators' whereabouts, he told them he didn't even know the tow truck driving hitman's real name. The only clue he could offer was a vague one.
He was pointing them to Brooklyn. He told police Nomi To hangs out at a certain deli.
But where in Brooklyn? And what is Nomi To's real name? Finding Nomi To seemed like searching for a needle in a haystack.
There had to be some connection that would get them closer to Nomi To.
With little else to go on, investigators decided to speak to the victim's family. While Nazish's heartbroken loved ones knew nothing about Nomi To's murder conspiracy, they had plenty to share about Kashif.
I interviewed both the sister and the brother, and they didn't seem surprised at all that he would be involved in this.
Nazish's family told police that in the time Kashif had been a part of the family, they'd all noticed a disturbing tendency. Kashif tended to bend the truth.
He's apparently very persuasive. He was a liar.
But Nazish's siblings also told police one thing was true. Kashif was very unhappy in his marriage.
He was very verbally abusive to her. He was physically abusive.
Nazish said she even feared Kashif's abuse was escalating.
She sent text messages saying, he wants to kill me, and if you find me dead, it's Kashi's the one who did it.
Investigators dug deeper into Kashif's background and made a shocking discovery. While nothing in his past indicated he was a murderer, police were still stunned to learn that Kashif had something to hide. When it came to his education, Kashif Parvez wasn't a model student. He was a compulsive liar.
They had no record of him at Columbia or Harvard.
He claimed that he was enrolled in Harvard, attending Harvard, and that turned out to be complete fiction.
Was Nomi To as much a fantasy as Kashif's Ivy League resume? With the warrant for Kashif's phone now in hand, detectives hoped they were about to find out once and for all.
We went through with the communications data warrant for the information on his cell.
Police found plenty of steamy texts between Kashif and Antoinette. And as the message dates grew closer to the date of the murder, Kashif and Antoinette's exchanges took on a more sinister tone.
Where are you? Are you ready? That sort of thing.
She was saying freedom is just around your corner.
But investigators couldn't find any mention of Nomi To anywhere in Kashif's phone. Could Antoinette lead police to the triggerman? When investigators obtained Antoinette's phone records, they learned that Kashif's lover wasn't at home in Massachusetts on the night of the murder. She was in New Jersey.
She was shown as having been in Boonton during the time the crime was committed.
Antoinette had no reason to be nearly 250 miles away from home. And the car that surveillance footage put near the scene was registered in Massachusetts. Investigators began to wonder, just how active a role had Antoinette taken in Kashif and Nomi To's murder plot? In order to answer that question, they would need to head north to Massachusetts, impound Nomi To's getaway vehicle, and question Antoinette.
And that night, we headed up to Massachusetts.
When investigators pulled up to the address listed on the Camry's registration, they saw the car itself parked in the driveway. Was Nomi To waiting for them inside?
Police knocked on the door, and they realized immediately they had come to the right place.
Coming up, a killer's lies unravel.
So that was just a red herring, a story to throw off the police.
And police hear evidence of a master manipulator's deadly persuasion.
The things that we find completely reprehensible and disgusting, well, for them, it fits into their scheme.
Antoinette Stephen and her married lover, Kashif Parvez, were desperate to be together, but divorce was out of the question.
The idea of divorce was something that he knew would be something that would bring shame on him because of his culture.
But in August of 2011, it looked as if Till Death Do Us Part had arrived. Kashif and his wife Nazish were attacked, and a hail of bullets wounded Kashif and killed his wife. Kashif initially insisted to police that he had nothing to do with his wife's death, but under intense interrogation, he finally admitted that though he didn't pull the trigger, he was partially to blame.
He said he had hired someone named Nomi To to do the killing.
Text messages between Antoinette and Kashif and the license number of the blue Camry seen leaving the scene of the shooting led police to the front door of a home in suburban Boston. Now, they hope that Nomi To was only a knock away.
Once they were able to get the license, track the license plate of the car, a bunch of detectives made a trip up to the Boston area.
The police go to Massachusetts to find Nomi To, find the car.
But when the door opened, the face that greeted them wasn't a mysterious tow truck driving hitman. It was 26-year-old Antoinette Stephen. Antoinette was shocked to see detectives standing on the doorstep.
When we made contact, she acted like she had no idea why we were there.
Antoinette explained that they had come to her parents' house and that the car parked in the driveway was her father's. She quickly agreed to accompany the investigators to a local police station.
She was fully cooperative.
Police questioned Antoinette about her relationship with Kashif. She readily admitted to their affair, but she said she hadn't heard from him.
She's asking police, how is he?
When police asked her about the plot to kill Nazish, Antoinette had no idea what they meant.
She denies any knowledge of what had occurred.
While Antoinette was interrogated, police searched for anything that might get them closer to the truth.
We executed a search warrant at her parents' house.
A look inside Antoinette's closet revealed a suitcase.
In that suitcase, it had clothes. In the middle of the clothes, had a purple box.
When officers opened the box, they knew they had broken the case at last. The box held not one, but two guns.
A 9mm semi-automatic handgun and a .38 special.
Each gun chambered the same caliber of ammunition fired in the attack.
They match exactly the bullet casings they found at the scene of the crime.
Investigators now believed that Antoinette had come to Boonton on the night of Nazish's death to retrieve and hide the two murder weapons.
Perhaps Kashif made her an accomplice. Her job was to give out the guns.
Whatever the whole story was, hiding guns was enough for police to place Antoinette under arrest. She was charged with murder, conspiracy, and endangering the welfare of a child. Back in Boonton, they leveled the same charges against Kashif.
This was sadly the alleged handiwork of the victim's husband, who allegedly did the unthinkable, plotting the murder of his wife.
But Kashif's co-conspirator wasn't a mysterious truck driver turned hitman. Police were now utterly convinced that Antoinette Stephen had helped set up Nazish's murder, and that Nomi To was just another strand in Kashif's web of lies, and did not exist.
That was just a red herring, a story to throw off the police.
It was very possible that Kashif himself had shot his wife, and then to cover up for the situation, he shot himself in the foot and in the shoulder.
But when investigators unearthed surveillance footage from a gun range in Massachusetts, they realized they still didn't quite have the whole story. Video showed Kashif and Antoinette arriving at the gun range 2 weeks before the shooting. But as investigators watched, it became apparent that it wasn't Kashif who was honing his skills.
It was Antoinette just firing center mass at a target.
Not only was Antoinette doing the shooting, she was standing in a downrange position that exactly matched the bullet trajectories measured from the murder scene.
It looked like to be the 5-7 yard range, which is consistent to walking up to somebody and shooting them.
Police recognized the truth. What they were watching was a rehearsal for murder, with Antoinette cast as one of the shooters. Had Kashif used one of the guns to shoot his wife and then asked Antoinette to shoot him with the other, they wouldn't have to wait long for an answer. With evidence mounting, Antoinette agreed to tell the whole story.
Antoinette did crack under pressure and confessed to being involved with the crime.
Antoinette told detectives that she was involved, but that her conscience was clean. According to Kashif, they had every reason to kill his wife. Not only was Nazish standing between them and happiness, Kashif said that his wife wouldn't permit desperately needed medical care for their son.
Parvez told Antoinette that his little son had sickle cell anemia, and the wife refused to bring the boy for treatment.
Antoinette was wondering what kind of a mother would do something like this to their child.
At first, Antoinette gave Kashif everything she could spare from her tuition savings.
He needed money, and she ended up giving him money to help fund this child's medical condition.
And when Kashif came to her with his plan to get rid of Nazish once and for all, Antoinette was willing to do anything to see Kashif happy at last.
He had this terrible marriage from which he needed to free himself.
Antoinette believed that with Nazish out of the picture, she and Kashif could finally be together.
She was really under this perception that they were going to live happily ever after as a family.
All it would take was to set Kashif's plan into motion. On the night of August 16th, Antoinette told police she waited in a driveway on the Boonton Street where Kashif had told her he and his wife would be walking. But when she spotted the couple just after 11 p.m., she also saw something that hadn't been a part of their strategy.
In the original plot, the son, the little boy wasn't supposed to be there.
Antoinette knew that they might never get another chance. In spite of the boy being with them, she made the next move.
She stepped out of the darkness, of the shadows, into the street. She had 2 handguns with her. To make it appear to be more than one shooter, she fired.
Antoinette's first shots ripped through Nazish.
Antoinette shoots her 3 times.
Once her rival lay lifeless, just as they planned, she turned the second gun on her lover.
Antoinette was the one who had shot his wife and then shot him.
Antoinette admitted that immediately after she stopped shooting, she then got into her blue Camry and drove home to hide the guns police found in her closet.
The things that we find completely reprehensible and disgusting, well, for them, it fits into their scheme.
In order to confirm Antoinette's confession, police made inquiries about the things Kashif had told her. A phone call confirmed his son's critical health crisis was another lie.
The little boy had nothing wrong with him.
By all accounts, Nazish was a model mother. The entire deadly conspiracy had hinged on Kashif's power to persuade Antoinette to do his bidding. No questions asked.
He was manipulating the whole time. There was not one time, though, I think he was probably really honest with her.
But as investigators prepared to seek justice in court for Nazish, they got word that even with Antoinette's confession on the books and Kashif in jail awaiting his day in court, the killing might not be over. Coming up, on the eve of the murder trial, police uncover a deadly new plot.
He was attempting to find a hitman.
And shocking new evidence leads to an even more bizarre conspiracy.
To put a spell on her so she commits suicide.
When Antoinette Stephen met married Kashif Pervez, their love affair generated passion, deception, and murder. A brutal shooting left Kashif's wife Nazish dead and Kashif wounded. And police now had Antoinette and Kashif in custody for his wife's murder.
She and Kashif together had planned the murder.
And Antoinette did the shooting.
Antoinette was the one who had shot his wife and then shot him.
But during the run of the trial, prosecutors and police received word that Kashif was still in the market for an assassin.
Corrections officers opened his mail and they found that he was attempting to find a hitman.
Not content with ending his wife's life, Kashif was looking to extend the death toll to include multiple members of Nazish's family.
To have this person kill anyone in her family that would be able to take custody of the children.
Intercepted letters revealed that Kashif had even bigger plans beyond contract murder. After making bail, he intended to kidnap his children and flee with them to Pakistan.
He wanted his kids back, and he wanted his freedom back, and he thought this was the way to do it.
But no one expected the accused wife murderer to receive bail. And once the letters came to light, posting bond was completely out of the question.
His bail was 1.5 or 2.5 million.
In February of 2015, Kashif's day in court finally arrived.
We felt confident, but you can never tell. Nothing's 100%.
The courtroom fell into stunned silence when prosecutors presented new evidence.
As early as 2009, he was writing emails to black magic companies asking if they could make his wife disappear.
The jury could scarcely believe their ears. Prosecutors claimed that Kashif had reached out to websites that promised to cast voodoo spells for money.
He wanted to either have her poisoned or killed or just put a spell on her so she commits suicide.
Prosecutors put receipts totaling thousands of dollars that Kashif paid out to voodoo websites into evidence.
And he asked one of the voodoo places, "How can I get my wife to commit suicide?"
But when it came time for the defense to state their case, they maintained that Nazish's death was a crime of passion committed by a jealous lover. Kashif's defense argued that Antoinette had acted on her own.
The defense strategy revolved totally around Antoinette Stephen being the killer.
I might be a jerk, I might be an awful guy, but I did not pull that trigger.
The jury wasn't buying it. On February 26, 2015, Kashif Parvez was found guilty of multiple charges, ranging from murder to child endangerment, and was sentenced to life in prison.
The verdict was very unanimous. He was guilty on all counts.
Having already pled guilty, Antoinette sidestepped a trial of her own.
Antoinette admitted that she was guilty and was sentenced to 30 years in prison.
But even with every lie now exposed, questions remained about Kashif Parvez.
How do you explain the logic in something like this? Who kills their wife in front of their baby?
And at what point does a love used to justify murder become sheer madness?
She was just so driven or so in love with him, she put blinders on, she killed somebody.
He's a master manipulator. He was easily able to take advantage of her.
She was a lonely wife.
Miranda was feeling very stressed. She had 3 children to take care of.
She felt neglected and that something was missing in her own marriage.
She found the passion she was looking for in the company of another man.
Ron whistled at her, so of course that immediately got her attention. She loved it.
He was charming, and he was outspoken, and if he wanted something, he said it.
Miranda had felt a lot of electricity towards this man. Miranda probably felt torn. Am I going to go with this guy or stay with my husband?
But this temptation would come at a devastating cost.
There were 2 gunshots.
And I saw a lot of blood.
I'm thinking, is that person still here in our community?
Now, follow investigators as they untangle a dark web of conspiracy and deceit and expose a tawdry love triangle with deadly repercussions.
The text messages were the playbook for murder.
He wanted to feel important, to be looked at as a savior, a hero.
I still can't wrap my mind around what has happened.
Things had always seemed to work out for Miranda Boob. Born in 1982, she was adopted as an infant by Marlene and Mark Heinzelman.
We adopted Miranda when she was 4 months old. It was a private adoption. We've always had a very close relationship. She is an only child.
I was not all that much in favor of adoption. However, the first time I held her, that changed entirely, and she immediately became my girl.
We lived in Center Hall, Pennsylvania. It's a small community. It's a very nice community. And she spent her whole life in Center Hall.
I wanted her to have the best of things that we could provide. It was important to me because she came from a background where she would have had next to nothing, and I wanted to change that for her. And being the only child, it gave us more options to do that.
Her parents' giving spirit rubbed off on Miranda. After high school, she found her calling caring for young children at the preschool owned by her mother.
We had about 100 students. Miranda would work for me in the summertime until she graduated, and then she worked for me full-time.
She did enjoy working with children. I think some of that came from her being an only child. If a child felt lonely, she would be especially sensitive to that.
A caring family, a job she loved. It seemed the world was at Miranda's fingertips. But there was one thing that Miranda thought was missing.
She didn't do a lot of dating. Miranda enjoyed doing things with other people.
She was attracted to boys that her parents didn't really respect or want her to have. So there was maybe a little bit difficulty in dating.
I wanted someone who would take care of her in the same style that she was used to. I didn't want someone who didn't look like they would be productive to me.
Then in 2002, 2 years after high school, Miranda met a young man who checked all the boxes for both her and her parents. 22-year-old Sam Boob.
She had gone to a Powder Puff game at their high school, and Sammy was there. Miranda had gotten a Mustang for graduation, and Sammy was really into cars. He asked if he could drive it, and she said sure, and that was the way they met. It was very soon after that game that she started bringing him to our house. We liked Sammy. He was from a Christian home, which was very important to us.
Sam worked at the Solid Waste Authority. He was in charge of maintenance.
Sam was very good at mechanical stuff, restoring old tractors, and then try to flip it for money.
He could fix anything mechanical, and so he had a 9-to-5 job, and he also was able to do things on the side to produce extra income.
Sam spent most of that extra cash showering Miranda with special one-of-a-kind gifts.
There's an annual tractor show, and he had a tractor there painted pink just for her.
There were a lot of women that wanted Sam, and I think she knew that.
But Sam only had eyes for Miranda. And in May of 2003, after a year of dating, the couple tied the knot. With the help of Miranda's parents, they bought a lovely home on a large lot just outside of town.
We came up with a down payment and bought them a house.
It had the huge garage that Sam really liked. It was a very, very nice house that Miranda was really proud of.
As they settled into their new home, the newlyweds began building their perfect family. And over the course of the next 5 years, welcomed 3 beautiful children. But like any married couple, Sam and Miranda had their ups and downs.
Money was very, very tight.
They got themselves in over their head.
So she came to me and she said, we are behind on our mortgage payments.
It was almost equivalent to their total salary, and we helped many times paid half or more of that mortgage.
Some of the couple's financial woes stemmed from the fact that as an only child, Miranda had trouble living on a budget.
Miranda was kind of spoiled in a way. She kind of had a very nice car. In high school, she had things other people may have wanted, and I think she was used to getting the things she wanted.
She would buy a lot of stuff for the kids. She was buying everything.
Miranda's overspending appeared to have caused strain in the relationship.
By the time the couple celebrated their 6th wedding anniversary, it was clear that Sam and Miranda's marriage had lost much of its spark.
There was probably a feeling on her part that he was always out in the garage, he was always busy, and she was doing sort of the routine caretaking, and she may have felt neglected and maybe made her feel like something that was missing in her own marriage.
Miranda was feeling very stressed. She had 3 children to take care of. She did all of the mowing at their house. She was the housekeeper and cooked all the meals.
In August 2009, Miranda was at a local convenience store when a handsome man walked up and introduced himself. His name was Ron Heichel.
He was originally from Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. He had quite the charming personality.
He was very good looking. He was charming, and he was outspoken, and if he wanted something, he said it.
Ron and Miranda struck up a conversation that quickly turned flirtatious.
Miranda liked attention. She lived for that. Ron must have whistled at her, so of course that immediately got her attention. She loved it.
He asked for her telephone number.
She told him she was married, and what was probably more thrilling to her is he didn't care. And that really made it exciting for her because here was a man that was so swept up in her, it didn't matter what her situation was. He just wanted her because she was that attractive.
Miranda relented and gave Ron her number.
They developed a texting relationship.
In Miranda's mind, nobody was getting hurt, and it was just innocent flirtation. It was just fulfilling a need in her without actually having an affair.
Over the next few days, Miranda and Ron exchanged several texts and even a few phone calls, which gave Miranda an opportunity to learn more about her new friend.
Ron was born to a single mom. His brother had been adopted out, so he was kind of an only child with his mother. He lived a rather struggling childhood. He saw some abuse in his life. His mother was physically abused by some of the men in her life.
He grew up poor, but when he was younger, he didn't understand. It was really hard for him to comprehend.
As she got to know Ron, Miranda could see that despite his hard upbringing, he always seemed to look on the bright side. And his positive mindset had helped him survive a near-fatal traffic incident a few years earlier.
Early 2000, he worked for a parking garage, and he left work, he got on his bike, and he was in an accident. They didn't know if he was going to make it. It was touch and go for a little while. He fought, and he got better. And he felt that he had been granted a second chance. He didn't feel he deserved it, and he was going to try and live this life like he hadn't before. Grateful, positive, giving back.
So when Miranda told him how unhappy she was in her marriage, he was overcome with a profound desire to help her.
He really wanted to protect someone like Miranda from anything bad that would be happening in her life.
Over the next several days, Miranda and Ron continued to talk, and the attraction between them continued to grow.
So Ron asked Miranda for coffee, and probably at that point she's thinking to herself, oh my gosh, I've got this moral dilemma. Do I go to coffee with him and perhaps pursue this in real life, or do I just stay on the text? And do I keep just kind of having this digital fantasy?
But Miranda knew if she did meet Ron, she could be heading down a road that could put her marriage to Sam in peril.
She's thinking to herself, if I go with this other man, then there's a chance that I could end up divorced, my kids could be taken from me. So there are a lot of real-world consequences.
August 23rd, 2009, at 10:07 a.m., Center County 911 receives a call from a panicked woman.
911, where's your emergency?
I need your help. That was just happening. She's dead.
She called to report that there was somebody that had been shot.
What's the address?
Husseyville Road, Center Hall.
Okay. What's your name, ma'am?
Miranda Boo. I love you, baby.
Coming up, police and EMTs rush to the scene where the victim is identified.
I still can't wrap my mind around what has happened. She was screaming and crying and hitting the driveway with her hands.
On August 23, 2009, police and paramedics respond to a report of a shooting at the home of Miranda Boob. First responders find Miranda crying in the driveway. In the grass behind her is a man's body. He's quickly identified as Miranda's husband, Sam Boob.
First responders saw Sam Boob laying face down in the grass right outside of his enormous detached garage. He had a shot blast through his back. It was pretty obvious when the police showed up that Sam was deceased.
The gunshot wound where he was shot, it killed him within seconds. He bled out.
We were at church that Sunday morning, and Miranda called Mark on his cell phone, and she said, "Dad, Sammy was shot."
And of course, we left immediately and went right to her home.
She was screaming and crying and hitting the driveway with her hands, and was just so at a loss as to what to say.
As Miranda's parents attempt to comfort their grieving daughter, detectives and crime scene techs search the scene for evidence.
He was hit with 2 shotgun blasts. The first blast caught him in the side of the chest. The second shot had actually been at his back.
There was actually burn marks on his back, so the gun was pretty close to his back to have those kind of burns on his skin. As we examined him, we noticed several of his fingers the tips had been blown off.
The missing fingertips, combined with the position of Sam's body, give police an idea of how the shooting might have gone down.
Our theory is that he walked into the garage and he was taken by surprise. And it was like a defensive mode where he put his hands up like somebody was holding a gun towards him. He was shot inside the garage initially.
And as he stumbled out the front door to get away, he fell face down, flat down, outside the door. Now, the shooter came out and shot him point blank in his back, essentially like an execution type wound.
I was the criminal investigator. Part of my job was to interview people on scene. Normally in a situation such as this, of course, Miranda was there. So other than being the wife, she was also the witness.
Though Miranda appears to be in shock, she manages to provide detectives with a statement.
She said they got up in the morning. She says Sam was out in the garage earlier. They were getting ready for church. She was getting the kids ready. Sam was making breakfast. And in between that time, he went back out to the garage.
Miranda says that 10 minutes passed and Sam hadn't come back in. Afraid they were going to be late for church, she went to the window to look for him.
She looked outside. She saw him laying out there.
Miranda says when she ran outside, Sam was bleeding from the mouth and gasping for air. She tells police she attempted CPR before calling 911. Based on Miranda's account, is it possible that Sam had stumbled upon a burglar?
If that was the case, the thief may have assumed the family was at church and they were trying to steal equipment and tools from the garage.
Under normal circumstances, a violent burglary turned homicide would be unthinkable in a quiet town like Center Hall. But there is an event taking place in town that week that makes police give the theory more consideration.
At the time of the incident, we had the Grange Fair going on. There's always an incident happening down at the Grange Fair. Maybe an assault, thefts, you name it. That did roll into our thoughts and throughout the investigation.
Fair and carnival workers are notoriously a nomadic group, so it's possible that the fair's in town and one of these workers happened to see the boob house and said, hey, that looks like an easy score for us.
Miranda was asked, did Sam have a firearm, a shotgun, any kind of gun out in the garage? And she said that Sam had a shotgun in the garage.
Sam could easily have surprised a burglar who saw the shotgun, grabbed it, shot Sam to get away.
While investigators dig into the backgrounds of the fair workers, lead detectives go door to door, asking neighbors if they saw anyone or anything unusual at the Boob residence that morning.
The neighbors didn't see anything, but some guy heard the gunshots.
Detectives also reach out to Sam's friends and co-workers, looking for any potential leads.
What you're looking for is someone that has a motive to hurt him. Who would have wanted to kill him?
I've never known him to have enemies.
He was very kind to so many people.
Family, friends, co-workers. There was nothing but nice things to be heard about Sam.
Despite Sam's reputation, a few neighbors tell police that not everything was perfect inside the Boob household. And one neighbor in particular claims to know the source of Sam and Miranda's problems.
One neighbor said that there was one certain man that seemed to be at the house when Sam was at work.
But who was this mystery man? And what role might he possibly have played in Sam Boob's murder?
People were just absolutely stunned, and the tide shifted.
Coming up, a new witness steps forward with troubling information.
He felt like something was off, and he did not believe Miranda's story that she didn't know what had happened to Sam.
Police investigating the mysterious murder of Sam Boob have just uncovered some troubling information. A neighbor reports seeing a strange man visiting the Boobs' home while Sam was at work, which leads investigators to take a closer look at Sam's wife, Miranda.
Normally in a domestic situation or a situation such as this, the one person you look at is the spouse.
Detectives revisit Miranda's 911 call to see if it offers up any potential clues. And they notice a detail that doesn't line up with the evidence collected at the crime scene.
She tells the 911 operator that she's doing mouth-to-mouth.
He's bleeding out his mouth.
Do you have him rolled on his back?
Yes, I do.
Did you try to blow 2 breaths of air into him?
Yes, I did.
She was untruthful when she said she was because she didn't have any blood on her, and Sam Boob was quite bloody.
But why would Miranda lie about administering CPR? Is it possible she knew more about Sam's murder than she was letting on? Investigators decide to raise that possibility with Sam's parents.
We were interviewing Sam's mom. One of my questions to her was, would you consider Miranda having anything to do with this? And her response was, absolutely not. She would never do something like this.
But what about the strange man seen at the couple's home while Sam was at work? Sam's family suggests it might have been a repairman who had nothing to do with the murder.
Sam was a great mechanic, but because of his schedule, he just didn't have time. Miranda oftentimes had to call a repairman to do things around the house.
While police continue their investigation, Sam Boob's grieving family gathers to pay their last respects.
I just remember that Sammy's family and some of our relatives had come, and we all were holding hands and praying. And I remember just crying for him.
However, there's one person in attendance who seems unmoved by Sam's death.
Miranda was around people who were trying to give comfort. People said that it seemed like she was performing.
She was doing some bizarre things that were, you know, not normal. She'd be acting like she's crying, but when they turned around and looked at her, that's not what they saw.
Miranda's parents say that's simply the way their daughter was processing the shock of losing her husband.
People said she didn't cry. Miranda could be very stoic because she didn't want people seeing what she felt like.
Miranda's mother might not be bothered by her detached demeanor, but it raises a serious red flag with Miranda's brother-in-law, Ben Court.
Sam had a sister, Christy, who's married to Ben Court. They live out in Colorado.
Ben had questions about Miranda's interpretation of events from the beginning.
He felt like something was off, and he did not believe Miranda's story that she didn't know what had happened to Sam.
Ben is so convinced that Miranda is hiding something, he shares his concerns with police.
One of his theories was that the way that the truck was positioned on the property was to conceal Sam's body.
It did seem suspicious how it may have been backed up to hide his body from the road, so people traveling on that road wouldn't see it.
That's not the only detail that's bothering Ben Court. Unlike the rest of Sam's family, Ben isn't convinced the man seen at Sam and Miranda's was a repairman.
Ben knew that Sam and Miranda were having problems, so he recognized the fact that Miranda could have been having an affair.
Ben tells police he'll help their investigation in any way he can. Detectives take him up on his offer by asking him to wear a wire the next time he speaks with Miranda.
He agreed to wear a recording device and speak with her because he thought she would open up to him.
The next day, Ben meets Miranda, who's unaware he's wearing a hidden recording device. Ben starts with a casual conversation, trying to win Miranda's trust.
Ben is a very nice guy. He's easy to talk to.
Can I just talk really frank? Marriage can be hard, and you and I married into the same family, and we got our ups and downs too.
He tried to sympathize with her, to make her feel comfortable, to get her to talk about what was going on.
Her guard is down, so she listens to him and she processes what he's saying. He tells her that the police are going to suspect her, and you can tell that that is her fear.
They have a lot figured, and they want to, they're looking at you.
Oh, I know they're looking at me.
He tells her he'll be on her side and that she just needs to tell him what happened so he can help her.
I think that you know who did this, and I think that we can figure it out.
He's kind of saying, you need to tell me, what really happened here, because I can't help you unless you do. And once she realizes that, she then tells him the story.
Miranda, somebody's going to prison for their whole life.
I do know who did it.
Coming up, Miranda Boob makes a startling confession that alters the entire course of the investigation.
She admits she knows a person who is kind of obsessed with her, that has sent her text messages, and she doesn't know what she's going to do about it if the police find them.
I just want to take my text messages to erase them all.
Pennsylvania police are beginning to believe Miranda Boob knows more about the murder of her husband Sam than she's been letting on. So they've outfitted her brother-in-law, Ben Court, with a secret recording device in hopes of discovering just what Miranda might be hiding.
The wire is extremely important to the case. Ben is highly intelligent. He's probably one of the first people that's able to talk to her, and her guard is down. So she listens to him and she processes what he's saying.
I know for a fact that they don't have your phone stuff yet, because they asked somebody in the family if they get a hold of your phone.
If they could have my phone.
If they could get it.
I just want to take my text messages to erase them all.
He reminds her that they can get her text messages even if she's deleted them off her phone, and she's definitely upset by that. She hasn't considered that. And once she realizes that, she then tells him the story.
Listen to me. Listen, look at me.
I can't.
Look, Miranda, somebody's going to prison for their whole life.
I do know who did it.
She confides in Ben that she does have some text messages on her phone that are going to look really bad to the police. And they're from a man by the name of Ron.
And who is this guy?
I don't know who he is. All I know is his name.
She says, no, I met this guy. This guy started texting me.
Miranda admits that she got very friendly with Ron and that their text messages were very flirty. She went on to say that she did agree to meet with Ron. They were going to have coffee, but she backed out because she was afraid that it would jeopardize her relationship with her husband, Sam. She said that that's when she stopped texting Ron, but he continued to pursue her and would not leave her alone.
Miranda tells Ben she's worried Ron's obsession over her might have led him to murder Sam.
Are we going to tell the cops about these messages, or are we going to let them find them? Because they will find them.
Miranda assures her brother-in-law that she was not involved in Sam's murder. She also insists Ron never came to the house.
I mean, like he never came here.
Yeah. We got to give this up, Miranda. We got to give him up, no matter who he is.
Ben asks Miranda for more information about Ron. She tells him that he works at the fair that's been in town for the last few weeks.
So Ben convinced her, hey, let's go to the Grange Fair. I want you to point this guy out.
Miranda and Ben drove down to the fair.
And unbelievably, she points him out.
She's like, there he is, there's the guy.
After Miranda identifies Ron, Ben drops her off at her house and heads straight to the police station.
He was able to tell us exactly where Ron was working, exactly what Ron looked like.
Later that same day, Pennsylvania state troopers visit Ron at the fair and ask him to come back to the station for questioning.
At the station, police put Ron in an interrogation room, and they bring Miranda in another room with a two-way mirror so she can see this man and tell the police whether or not he is the person that's been obsessed with her.
Miranda came in and she's like, yeah, he's sitting in there.
I think she felt that she had done her duty to help resolve the crime.
He was read his Miranda rights to talk about what happened, and immediately he asked for an attorney.
Though Ron Heichel has lawyered up, it doesn't stop investigators from obtaining a warrant to search the trailer Ron was living in at the fairgrounds.
They're looking for anything that will tie this man to the crime. Bloody clothes, maybe even the shotgun itself, but they can't find anything.
Police do find one item inside Ron's trailer they hope will shed more light on the investigation.
We did take his phone, we got a search warrant for it, and then you can see his call log.
That's when investigators finally lay eyes on the text messages Ron and Miranda have been exchanging. And they reveal a lot more about the couple's relationship than Miranda had previously admitted.
When the police are looking through her texts, these texts were extremely passionate, and that would lead the police to believe that she was more involved than she had admitted to.
Did that mean Miranda had given in to her desires? Had she had a physical affair with Ron? The texts aren't clear on that point, but it's obvious that Miranda never cut Ron off like she'd suggested to her brother-in-law.
She had originally said that this was just a man obsessed with her, but the text led the police to understand that this was a woman who was really entangled and involved with somebody, but it was obvious that she was pursuing him as much as he was pursuing her at that point.
The texts were being done right up to that morning of the shooting.
To find out what was really going on between Miranda and Ron, police head back to the fairgrounds, where they track down Ron's fellow fair worker and bunkmate, Kermit Butts.
Kermit Butts was able to confirm a couple of things. One is that he drove Heichel to meet Miranda. He would take him to meet her.
Kermit Butts also confirms what police had suspected, that Ron and Miranda had acted upon their fantasies.
Ron had told Kermit that he and Miranda were sleeping together.
This is a couple who was together, who was having a steamy affair, and that she put everything in her life at risk and decided her lust and her need to be with this other man was more important than her marriage.
And according to Kermit, Ron believed the relationship with Miranda was more than just sexual.
It just wasn't a physical fling for him. It was something that was very emotional, and he really felt that this woman was maybe the love of his life. He felt it was mutual.
Kermit also tells police that Miranda had made some grave accusations against her husband.
She had told Ron that Sam was abusive.
The allegations of any kind of domestic abuse between Sam and Miranda, of course, were told by Miranda.
We didn't hear the rumors from anyone other than she had told that story in order to gain sympathy, but we never heard it from anyone else.
Given the lack of corroborating evidence, is it possible Miranda had an ulterior motive for telling Ron that Sam was abusing her?
He came from a home where his mother was abused, and he didn't want to see another woman in that situation.
And it's clear from the texts that Miranda's claims of abuse found a receptive audience in Ron Heichel.
He had seen his mom being beat for years, and that's something that deeply scarred him.
Is it possible Ron Heichel murdered Sam Boob in an effort to free his new lover from an allegedly abusive marriage? And if so, did Miranda know about it?
He was a person who was very protective of women, particularly if he watched his mother being abused. If Miranda was telling him that she was being abused by this husband, he was almost feeling like, I have to do something.
Raising even more questions about Miranda's involvement are the text messages she and Ron exchanged the morning of the murder.
Ron keeps asking her, she wants to have her pawn done that day. And she was, pretty much, yes, I want my pawn done today.
It's easy to see why police would be confused about that entire exchange between these sporadic references to, so do you need a pond built? And then have it immediately go into where Sam is, and you should go to church so there are witnesses, and don't let the kids come in the garage.
It was apparent that pawn meant, do you want Sam killed?
And that was code for, are you sure you want me to kill your husband? And Miranda texted back, yes, I want you to kill my husband.
To test their theory, police turn back to Ron's bunkmate, Kermit Butts, who admits that on the morning of Sam's murder, Ron asked Kermit to drive him out to the Boob residence.
Kermit Butts said that Heichel had been telling him that this guy had been hurting his wife. He had seen Heichel with her getting into her car. He knew they were having an affair, and that Heichel was angry because he thought Sam Boob was mistreating her. When he realized Ron Heichel was going to hurt or kill Sam Boob, he stopped and didn't want to take him further up to the house, but that Heichel threatened to kill him if he didn't keep driving.
Kermit claims he was forced to drop him off at an area where Ron would go up through the woods, through fields, to Miranda's home. He was instructed by Ron where to sit and wait. Ron goes up through the field, hides in the woods, and he starts texting Miranda.
He says, can you see me out here? She confirms she can see him. How do I get in the garage? She tells him how to get in the garage. They start planning together. What's he doing? He's cooking breakfast for the kids. It's heartbreaking. She's watching her husband make breakfast for their kids, knowing his killer is outside going to end his life in a few minutes. She guides Ron Heichel. You're gonna have to make noise to make him come out. Sam does go out, we know that now, and he goes out to check on him. And he entered the garage and he saw Heichel with his own gun. And as he turned to try to shrink away from Heichel, he shot him with a shotgun. The first wound was to his side and his chest as he was trying to get out the door to safety. And then when he fell outside the door of his garage onto his stomach, Heichel walked up to him and shot him point-blank range in the back.
Kermit Butts said he heard the gunshots, and then Ron came running through the field. He picked Ron up, took him back.
Kermit Butts' statement combined with the couple's text messages, are enough for police to charge Ron Heichel and Marinda Boob with murder.
Miranda's family, they were upset. You know, I would be too if I was the Heinzelmans, because they believed everything she said.
We went to visit her when she was in the county jail. We went every time we could go there. Always told her, Marinda, whatever you do, tell the truth.
Once in custody, Ron Heichel again invokes his right to remain silent. Marinda, on the other hand, tells anyone who will listen that she's been wrongfully accused.
She claims that she thought that Ron Heichel was going to come by and just like put Sam in his place, that he shouldn't be abusing her, and that she had no idea that he was going to kill him that day.
Is it possible Marinda is telling the truth? Is she really a killer? Or just a cheating spouse whose lover had taken matters into his own hands?
She never wanted Sammy dead. She never did.
Coming up, Ron and Marinda stand trial for the murder of Sam Boob. And a courtroom twist reveals another player in this deadly love triangle.
When she was in jail, her very first call was to him. That's who she wanted to be with.
Marinda Boob and her lover, Ron Heichel, have been charged with the murder of Marinda's husband, Sam. When the couple's joint trial begins, prosecutors insist Marinda was the crime's true mastermind.
She's definitely more of the leader, even though she didn't pull the trigger. Marinda lies and says he was abusive to her. That was unequivocally false. As part of our trial, we were able to disprove that. But there was zero evidence, and it was untrue that he was physically abusive to her in any way.
But if the abuse allegations weren't true, then why had Marinda wanted Sam dead? According to prosecutors, Marinda's motive had been the oldest one in the book: greed.
The reason for killing Sam Boob did appear to be a couple of insurance policies and some retirement money.
Somehow she came to resent that she married a man who was hardworking and lived a blue-collar lifestyle. Nothing ever seemed good enough for her. She shopped a lot, she put them in debt, and she just seemed to want more financially and superficially.
As proof of Marinda's motive, prosecutors call a surprise witness.
Prosecutors called a man named Wes Decker to the stand.
Wes Decker testifies that he'd also been carrying on an affair with Marinda, and that Marinda had approached him with a disturbing request shortly before Sam Boob's murder.
He said Marinda asked him to kill her husband. So this wasn't an impulsive thing by Marinda Boob. She'd been working on this.
According to prosecutors, it was Wes Decker and not Ron Heichel who was Marinda's true love.
That's who she wanted to be with. When she was in jail, we were listening to her jail calls, and her first phone call was to Wes Decker. That's how we were able to find out who Wes was. He basically broke down and told us what was going on.
The horrible realization for Ron must have been that he was doing all this for love. He killed for love. He, was having this affair because he loved this woman. And here she was doing everything for greed. And not only was she doing it for greed, but she was carrying on with another man. And he just understood at that point that he was being used.
On March 22nd, 2011, after deliberating for just 2 hours, the jury finds Marinda Boob guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Ron Heichel is convicted of first-degree murder, as well as conspiracy.
Marinda Boob and Ron Heichel, they received life in prison without parole.
And in Pennsylvania, a life sentence means life, not early parole. It means until your last breath.
For Marinda and Ron's loved ones, the convictions are painful endings to an already tragic story.
I wish this had never happened. never happened for anybody.
I could not tell you the difficulties that I feel for the Boob family because there has been so much loss in that family, and then our own loss. It has just destroyed us much more than I can really describe.
With the tawdry details of Miranda's killer romance now laid bare, those familiar with the case see Miranda as the engine that drove Ron to commit murder.
Miranda's...
She was a single mom whose love life had gone cold.
She wanted to forget what was going on in the real world, escape reality.
She found the connection she was looking for in the unlikeliest of places.
He had originally dated her daughter and then moved on to dating Kelly.
You've got a woman dating a teenage boy who used to be her daughter's boyfriend. From the outside, it looks crazy.
I was hurt. I was feeling like, how could my mom do this?
But this scandalous love affair would come with a deadly price tag.
This was savage. This was brutal. I still can't get away from how animalistic the attack was.
Was this unlikely couple guilty of nothing more than a May-December romance? Or was something more sinister afoot? As the investigation into a brutal crime unfolds, the truth behind their affair reveals a twisted tale of secrets, lies, and a passion that burned with deadly intensity.
This was anger and betrayal and love.
There are true evil people out there.
I know a person can't do this. That's what I don't understand.
For years, Bryan, Texas resident Kelly Cifuentes seemed to embody the very definition of a small-town wife and mother.
She had 2 children, a daughter and a son.
Kelly Cifuentes fits the mold when it comes to hard worker, resident of a community.
She'd always been a housewife, a homemaker. She had been comfortable. Her husband had made sure she was comfortable.
As a child, Kelly was raised in a similarly picture-perfect family.
It was me and my little sister, Kelly, my mom and dad. We lived in the suburbs. We both attended public schools. My dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mother, and it was fairly typical.
She did dance. She went to concerts. She loved Kiss. She also was really close with my grandmother, with Jerry. She was. They were very close. It was a great family atmosphere. It really was.
Her overall goals, I think she just wanted to be a wife and a mom.
Both goals were definitely on Kelly's mind when she met a young man named Felix Cifuentes her senior year in high school.
3 months after they met, they got married. And then she was soon pregnant with me.
She did marry fairly young. It was a good marriage, and they were just thrilled to have Melissa.
Felix did a very good job providing for his family. He actually had a company that he named after her, Kelly's Plumbing, that did very well.
Melissa and Kelly were very, very close.
Melissa and Kelly were inseparable, more like sisters than they were mother and daughter.
When Melissa was 12, Kelly gave birth to her second child, a boy named Kevin. Even though having a newborn made for some long days and some sleepless nights, Kelly and her daughter's bond only grew stronger.
Her goal was just always make me happy and to be the best mom she could be. It's like I had a mom and a best friend all in one.
Life seemed perfect for Kelly and her family. That is, until her husband Felix was charged with a shocking crime.
Basically, he was going out with his friends, and I guess he touched a woman inappropriately, but thought she was an adult, and she turned out to be only 16 years old.
Felix was fixing to go to prison, and they knew that things were going to get hard.
When Felix first went to prison, it was more difficult, I think, than she thought it would be to be the sole provider.
Luckily, Kelly's mother, Geraldine, came to the rescue, opening up her home to Kelly and the kids. But as grateful as Kelly was, living under her mother's roof proved more difficult than she imagined.
Complete different lifestyle for Kelly and for my mother, you know. Having your children and grandchildren over every Sunday is one thing, but having them move in lock, stock, and barrel is different.
She did let it know or be known that her and my grandma weren't really getting along at the time. My mom, honestly, she didn't handle it very well. She suffered from depression off and on, and it really, enhanced those feelings for her.
Kelly was desperate for friendship and companionship, and she ended up finding it in an unlikely place.
Melissa had many friends in and out of the house, and somehow my sister began to have parties with them. Drinking went on in the house, and she just lost sight, I think, of being a mature mother.
Felix going away to prison let loose a completely different Kelly that I knew, that my mother knew, that our whole family knew. She wanted to probably forget what was going on in the real world, escape reality.
One of her daughter's friends that always seemed to be hanging around was 14-year-old Christian Olsen.
When I met Christian Olsen, it was, I believe, 6th or 7th grade. He was really super smart. He was always really good at everything he did, whether that was sports, schools. He was one of those that didn't really have to try really hard.
In her, he was still a minor. But when Christian began texting Kelly, she couldn't hold back.
Christian's text to Kelly got more and more flirtatious, and really that's all Kelly needed to act on those feelings.
Christian was especially thrilled when Kelly began sneaking over to his house when his parents weren't around.
Kelly was kind of reaching out to Christian in some pretty inappropriate ways. When he was kind of grounded, she would sneak pizza to him. She was kind of interfering with his parents. He was running away. She was giving him shelter.
She would say to Christian, just come on over, stay at my house. You can sleep here, not a big deal. We'll just keep it between us.
And it was during one of Christian's secret sleepovers that Kelly decided to take the next step. With her own mother and children asleep in their rooms, Kelly invited Christian into her bed.
But there was an actual romantic relationship between Christian and Kelly.
From the outside, this relationship looks like a soap opera. I mean, you've got a woman dating a teenage boy who used to be her daughter's boyfriend. From the outside, it looks crazy. But to Kelly, she didn't care.
For the next year, Kelly and Christian kept their romance under wraps. Christian's parents were unaware of the relationship, but in spring of 2007, they discover some flirty text messages between the couple and immediately tried to put a stop to it.
They were doing everything they could to keep her away. He had his cell phone, I think, taken away from him. And the reason for taking the cell phone away from him is so he couldn't communicate with Kelly.
But Christian, now 18, refused to let his mom and dad stand in the way of his feelings for Kelly.
That ultimately ended up in him leaving his home and his adopted parents to move in with not only this older woman, but also the daughter who he had dated, and Geraldine Lloyd as well.
Living under the same roof made it harder for Kelly and Christian to keep their romance a secret. Kelly's mother, Geraldine, strongly disapproved of the relationship. Even more dismayed was Kelly's teen daughter, Melissa.
I remember that I came home and Christian was there. And I don't remember which room it was, but the door was locked. And I knocked on the door, and it turned out my mom and Christian were in there. I was more like feeling like, how could my mom do this? Like shocked. I mean, I didn't really know what to think. It was just like a new world.
What Melissa didn't know was that her mother's love affair with Christian Olsen would soon take an even more scandalous turn. It begins on June 3rd, 2007. A violent windstorm is setting off house alarms all over town.
The police got a bunch of alarm calls that night, and they were kind of just knocking them out, going by and checking the houses.
One of the alarms comes from the home of 68-year-old Etta Jean Westbrook.
She was a sweet, much-loved, innocent, elderly lady living by herself.
Police dispatched 2 officers to do a welfare check at Ms. Westbrook's house.
They knocked on the door. There was nobody there.
That's when they started checking the house a little bit further and looking through windows.
Through one of the front windows, officers spot Etta Jean's body on her living room floor.
It was kind of hard to see where she was laying from the outside, to see her laying there inside the house.
Worried that Etta Jean had fallen and hurt herself, the officers forced their way into the home and stumble into a scene far more gruesome than they'd anticipated.
Ms. Westbrook had severe head injury. There was a large pool of blood next to her. The officer checked on Ms. Westbrook for any signs of life and found none.
68-year-old Etta Jean Westbrook is pronounced dead at the scene. From what responding officers assume at the time is an accident.
We thought maybe she had fallen and bumped her head. We weren't really sure.
But when homicide detectives arrive and take a closer look at Etta Jean's body, the true nature of her fatal injuries will be revealed.
I thought that she had shot herself in the head, and she was laying on the gun. And when we got to that point where we actually rolled the body, there's no gun.
Coming up, the search for a suspect goes digital and yields a possible clue.
So if Etta Jean is dating someone from this dating site, could that person be a person of interest?
And police uncover evidence of a second suspicious death.
Once we pulled that brush back and that plastic bag, there was a very putrid smell.
They discovered Etta Jean Westbrook in her home.
Seeing no sign of a struggle, detectives initially wonder if suicide is a possibility.
I thought that she had shot herself in the head, and she was laying on the gun. Sometimes when people shoot themselves in the head, their body will clench up, and sometimes it'll pull the gun underneath them. They'll still have it in their hands. Both of her hands were under her body. You couldn't see them. And when we got to that point where we actually rolled the body, there's no gun.
With no signs of suicide or forced entry, investigators believe Etta Jean's death is in fact an accident.
We thought maybe she had fallen and bumped her head.
Miss Westbrook's body was sent to Austin for an autopsy.
It really wasn't until the medical examiner looked at her the next morning and did his exam and found that she'd been struck in the head.
I went to the autopsy, and they usually run water over them to get to clear up the blood, and that's when you could see the wounds.
There were some 25 holes in her skull. She was probably beaten in her head savagely at least 25 times, but probably as many as 35 or 40 times. She was just destroyed.
Also, her neck was very clearly strangled for a certain amount of time.
But why would anyone commit such a brutal act against a kindly 68-year-old widow? Hoping to find some answers, investigators returned to Etta Jean's home the following morning, this time treating it as a crime scene.
Upon learning that her death was a murder, we did continue with extra processing of the scene.
We covered the windows, covered the doors to get it as dark as we could, and we used the Blue Star ointment, and it activates with the blood. And you could really tell that had been smears, cleanup efforts. You could see cast off on the ceiling, on the wall, where these blows are taking place.
Someone had taken a solution to various portions of the home, including an ottoman that was right next to Etta Jean Westbrook. It was very clear to law enforcement, to their experts, that someone had tried to eliminate some of the evidence. There were a few things in the home that the children of Etta Jean Westbrook were able to help authorities figure out might have been clues in this case. She had some railroad spikes that were in her garage, and one of them was not there anymore.
The reddish metal color of the remaining railroad spikes matches another discovery the coroner made while cleaning Etta Jean's wounds.
It was a tiny kind of fragment of what looked like metal, reddish metal, which I think is what helped prove that it was the railroad spike that was used.
Based on the new evidence, police are able to recreate the moments of the attack.
She was first assaulted in the kitchen. There was blood and hair that was found there. And then the fight continued into the living room where her body ended up, where there was a massive amount of blood just pooled across that room where her life ended.
Police scour the rest of the home, looking for any additional evidence that might shed light on the killer's identity.
The only thing we really found was a note, and we don't even know who it was to or what, but it made the comment that when you take a lady out on a lunch date, you pay.
But what could this cryptic note mean? Police find a possible answer on Etta Jean Westbrook's computer. According to its web browser history, someone had logged on to an internet dating site before the murder.
So if Etta Jean is dating someone from this dating site, could that person be a person of interest?
To get to the bottom of these questions, detectives turn to Etta Jean's son, Curtis.
He kind of gave us some background, that
Police confront a possible killer.
Why'd you hurt her? What's that up? I'm not a normal person. That's just it.
On the quiet suburban street where Kelly Cifuentes and her teenage boyfriend, Christian Olsen, once shocked neighbors with their scandalous romance, another more tragic scene now has the neighborhood on edge.
The murder of Etta Westbrook across the street, it was monstrous. It was way beyond overkill.
The family was unable to come up with anybody who had a real issue with Miss Westbrook.
But just hours after the murder, police catch their first break.
One of Etta Jean's sons, Curtis, I believe, lived in this area. He, I believe, is the one who discovered that some of her credit cards were missing.
With the help of Etta Jean's children, police obtain a list of recent transactions on her credit card accounts.
There were about $1,400 worth of purchases on that credit card after the time they believe Etta Jean Westbrook was murdered. There were things like cleaning supplies and also a hotel room that was purchased here in town for the night after the murder had taken place. Even basic things like snack food.
Once they realized that those credit cards were being used, I think they knew whoever was using the credit cards immediately after she was beaten to death and her credit cards were taken was the person who killed her.
That afternoon, police visit the stores where the cards were used.
But we had a team put together. They started going to like Target and Walmart and Kroger's and trying to get a video of when these cards were used due to the date and timestamp.
When authorities took a look at the surveillance video at these various locations, they see this guy in his late teens making purchases.
He was dressed in a t-shirt and shorts, and he was just doing it like it was regular business. Apparently he's used to using stolen credit cards.
One of the clerks in one of these stores ID'd the person who was making the purchases because they'd gone to school together. And it turned out to be Christian Olsen. Once they have an identification on Christian, they look for an address and come to find out that he's living literally directly across the street from the victim.
It comes back to the person who owns the house, this is Geraldine Lloyd.
Armed with this information, police obtain a warrant for Christian's arrest. They also set up surveillance units on the house.
We set up some of our plainclothes surveillance guys to watch the house. So as soon as they saw that they were getting in the car, we knew that they had to go pick up the son at around 3-ish. So we were all ready to roll. He made a stop, a personal stop, and then that's when we swooped in.
They executed a traffic stop on June 6th. pulling over Christian Olsen, who had Kelly Cifuentes in the car with him, and placing him under arrest for the murder of Etta Jean Westbrook.
Both Kelly and Christian are there. They're also curious about a wound Christian appears to have on his right hand.
There was a Band-Aid on one of his fingers. Detective Fikes asked him to remove the Band-Aid, and upon doing so, we noticed a large cut that looked like it had been healing for days on that finger.
I cut on her. I was fixing we had a swing in our backyard, and I was using a knife to cut the rope. We got some rope, and I ended up cutting my finger with it when I was cutting the shoulder.
We asked for a DNA sample, which we would do with any homicide suspect. We then asked him if he'd ever been in her home.
Have you ever been in that lady's house before? I borrowed a cooking pan from her and then brought it back to her.
We kind of eased into that one and got him to give us some details of the house. And while he was in there, we asked him, I just finally looked at him and said, "Why'd you hurt her?"
Tell me what else happened when you were in his house. You tell us why it happened. Why'd you hurt her? I don't even know why. I didn't even know her.
And that's when he confessed. He said he didn't know.
What set it off? Up person. Okay. We all make mistakes. I'm not a normal person. That's just it. You are. A normal person can't do this. How do you do this?
Christian starts describing in tearful, gruesome detail the events which led to the murder of Etta Jean Westbrook.
On June 2nd, Christian had come across the street to borrow a baking pan. We have no idea whether he had murder on his mind at that point.
And Etta Jean, being the person she was, she loaned it to him. And the ostensible reason for him coming back the next day, on a Sunday, after she'd come back from church, was to return that baking pan.
He returns the baking pan, and he tells authorities he was invited into the home. He reached and grabbed this railroad spike.
Where'd you get it with? What was it? A piece of metal. Where'd you get it? From a garage.
The railroad spike was probably about a foot long and probably about an inch in diameter, so pretty hefty.
I asked him where the initial attack occurred, and he said in the kitchen.
Just lose control. What happened? What started it? I don't know.
And I asked him if she ran from him or what happened after that, and he said that she ran into the living room.
That's what I don't understand. Why it happened? I didn't even know her. I've never hurt anyone in my life. I'm not violent. I'm a thief, basically. I mean, I'm going out my ass. Never hurt anyone.
I asked him again about the Band-Aid and if he damaged his or cut his finger during the initial murder, and he agreed.
My hands, my face. I just feel it throbbing. And then I just go into the bathroom and I wash it off.
As he came out, I think he probably heard something from Etta Jean. He must have believed that she was still alive, and we believe he climbed on top of her and strangled her.
Christian says he does remember grabbing money out of the purse, about $150, along with the credit cards, and then leaving the home.
He seemed remorseful for about 5 seconds, and then he completely shut it off and back to his cold stone self.
It's a stunning confession, but it's still unclear why Christian would murder Etta Jean Westbrook, having never hurt anyone before. Detectives will learn the answer to that question when they sit down with Christian's girlfriend, Kelly Cifuentes.
At that time, we weren't really suspicious until we actually talked to Kelly, and all the bells and whistles went off.
Coming up, police dig deeper into Christian's life to try and discover what drove him to murder.
I think she used Christian. She put the spell on him, so to speak.
And the search for answers unveils a second possible crime.
He said, "Hey, there's an older lady that lives in that house where Christian Olsen was staying, and I haven't seen her in a couple of months."
police station in Bryan, Texas, 19-year-old Christian Olsen has just recounted how he slaughtered his elderly neighbor, Etta Jean Westbrook.
This was about money. You know, it's a pretty petty motivation for such savage crimes.
Meanwhile, in a room across the hall, detectives are questioning Christian's girlfriend, 41-year-old Kelly Cifuentes. They start by informing her that Christian has just confessed to the murder.
She just expressed an extreme amount of shock that this person who she had known for years would commit this crime.
Kelly denied all.
I haven't seen her in a couple of months.
I asked Kelly, where's your mom? Where's Geraldine at? She gave me a story and a runaround about being in Houston with some friends.
However, before detectives can reach out to their colleagues in Houston to verify Kelly's statement, they get a surprise phone call from Kelly's estranged husband, Felix Cifuentes.
Felix hasn't been out long. He was recently out on parole, living with his mother in Waco.
Felix tells police he'd been trying to reignite a relationship with his children ever since his release. He'd been talking to Kelly as well. And according to Felix, during their most recent conversation, Kelly made a startling confession.
Felix called and said, by the way, Geraldine Lloyd, Kelly's mother's, buried in the backyard, and apparently Christian did it.
From what I understand, my sister told Felix that she was aware of what had happened to our mother, and she was scared, and she didn't want to hold that secret anymore. She cried to her husband, and he called the police.
With this new information in tow, police returned to Geraldine's home the next day with a warrant to excavate the backyard.
There's one brush pile that was right near the back porch. It just seemed like it was really odd to have this brush pile right there.
Once we pulled that brush back, there was a very putrid smell. So we had some shovels and things, and we started kind of working in that area. And the further we got, we uncovered a pillow. And we actually dug pretty deep. It took us a couple hours to actually locate part of the body.
Seeing that hole firsthand, knowing that a 63-year-old woman who had basically been treated like she was nothing, even like a piece of garbage, covered up by dirt, those few seconds looking at that hole were haunting, to say the least.
Sent her off to the medical examiner's office, and the cause of death was blunt force trauma to her head.
There is no word to describe what I felt. I was sickened. I was just overcome with grief and disbelief. It was a horrible time. Horrible.
On June 22nd, 2007, detectives questioned Christian Olsen about the murder of Geraldine Lloyd.
Who would have a reason to kill Geraldine? I have no idea. Did you kill Geraldine? No. We'll get a report that you did. And that you buried her in the backyard.
We tried to ask him some more questions, and only other thing he would say is Kelly here in jail then?
Obviously, it was clear that Kelly had knowledge of the murder taking place and had participated in the cover-up of it.
Who did it? I can't tell you, man. I know I didn't do it, and I don't know who did it.
He basically just told us that he had nothing to say to us, or he could talk to his lawyer.
Hoping to uncover the answers Christian wouldn't provide, detectives and CSIs again returned to Geraldine Lloyd's house.
Geraldine's room had a deadbolt lock on it. First one I'd ever seen inside of a house. That's usually for an exterior door. We went in. Her bed looked like it had brand new sheets on it. It was made. But as soon as we turned it over, you could see blood had been all through the mattress.
The mattress was blood-soaked. So underneath the bed, they found a bowl with some bloody water in it with a wash rag. The person who killed her just pretty much cleaned it up as much as they could and then just kind of sealed off that bedroom for the next 6 months.
When police confront Kelly with their findings, she denies any involvement in the murder of her mother and instead pins it all on Christian.
I was asleep when he killed her, and he never even mentioned anything about that to us. Why would you hide something like this? I was afraid to go to prison for the rest of my life. I was afraid. I ran to my husband and I told him everything that had been going on, and he said, you needed to tell somebody. I had been living in deep, deep pain.
As was the case with the murder of Etta Jean Westbrook, police aren't buying Kelly's story.
They were going to go to prison. So why would she be worried that she was going to go to prison if she didn't have anything to do with it? But she kept making that statement over and over and over, so that just led us to believe that she knew exactly what was going on and was very much involved in it.
When they examine Geraldine's financial records, police uncover what they believe is the final piece of the puzzle.
In the bedroom where Christian and Kelly were staying, they had mountains of paperwork.
We had some documents that had actually been forged, they'd been changed, had been altered. And that's how we knew that they were taking money out of her account.
Christian and Kelly had been stealing tens of thousands of dollars from Geraldine.
When police confront Kelly with this new evidence, she finally changes her tune and admits to stealing from her mother.
I stole money from him in the end.
Kelly basically says that Geraldine had found out about it and could potentially go to law enforcement, and Christian could get in trouble. And as a result of that, Christian committed the murder.
The fact that Christian would have killed Geraldine without Kelly knowing, probably not likely. After all, they've been together, they had been stealing Geraldine's money. Kelly knew about that.
I think Geraldine's murder was Kelly's idea. There was a pink aluminum baseball bat in the garage. I think that was what he used. He just went in there when she was sleeping, and I think he just hit her with that as hard as he could and just destroyed her.
So they covered up the crime, and then they basically went on a spending spree with all of Geraldine's money, and it was exciting for them, but they definitely thought it wasn't enough. Like, they wanted to up the ante, and that's when they started targeting Etta Jean Westbrook.
Aware of this, they go out as if nothing had happened. They get a hotel room just hours after this crime.
There was just a run on adrenaline. He had just killed Etta Jean. They were out partying. I mean, you have to wonder, was this sort of like an aphrodisiac?
Police charge Christian Olsen with the murders of Geraldine Lloyd and Etta Jean Westbrook. Kelly Cifuentes is charged with conspiracy to commit murder.
My mother called me and she told me what had happened. I remember sitting down. I had to sit down. There was no way I could stand. You can't grasp it. You can't wrap your mind around it. How could you do this?
Coming up, Kelly and Christian await their day in court, but as Kelly's trial approaches, a new truth about the crime emerges.
But there were so many things that we could not prove.
And the wheels of justice take an unexpected turn.
They called me and said she's on life support.
Christian Olsen's trial begins in June of 2009, 2 years after Etta Jean Westbrook and Geraldine Lloyd were savagely murdered in their homes.
These were evil people. It contributed to the decision to seek the death penalty against Christian.
His lawyers portrayed him as a poor, young, manipulated young boy. This much older woman manipulated him and coerced him into doing this.
She had told Christian that they would be better off if Geraldine was dead.
Prosecutors agree that Kelly Cifuentes had been a bad influence on Christian. But they claim the 19-year-old knew full well what he was doing was wrong. They also show the jury photos from Etta Jean Westbrook's autopsy to display the brutality of her murder.
The state basically said, look, he hit her over the head 24 times and strangled her for 2 minutes. The intent was clear. The jury took about 45 minutes and came back with guilty of capital murder.
They came back with a death sentence, and I think that rocked him.
Once Christian Olson is sentenced, prosecutors turn their attention to Kelly Cifuentes, who's set to stand trial for conspiracy to commit murder.
It was probably Kelly's idea to kill Geraldine, her mother, her own mother. Christian, in that sense, was a useful tool to that end for her.
Prosecutors are hopeful Christian will testify against Kelly, but shortly before her trial begins, she surprises everyone by entering a guilty plea.
My mom took the plea for 30 years.
But Kelly Cifuentes wouldn't serve the full term of her sentence. 7 years later, on May 26, 2015, prison guards discover Kelly covered in blood and hanging from a bedsheet.
She committed suicide.
They told us in the hospital that it was cuts from her wrist all the way to her elbow on both arms, all the way from her thighs, all the way down to like the knees, like the major arteries in her leg, and then she had hung herself too.
What had started as a stormy, illicit affair between two people desperate for connection ended with two murders